In this video, we're going to be using a combination of tools to extract railroad tie. So we're going to be taking advantages of the intensity values found in the railroad tie to isolate it from the data, and then we're going to be using the random noise filter to clean it up. And lastly, we're going to be using the flat asset ID to place a cell on those railroad ties. The first thing that I'm going to be doing is isolating the railroad by using the center line, creating a fence by creating a fence long element, specifying the width to be my railroad, and then just cropping all the data on the outside. This is going to help the random noise filter process a lot faster, and it's going to save us a little bit of time. Alright, so now that once that's cropped, we're going to go ahead and open up the display settings, go to the intensity histogram, and just filter the railroad tie by itself. Alright, that looks about it. And again, this doesn't have to be perfect. We're going to be using the random noise filter to clean up all this little bit of noise in between the railroad tie. Alright, so now we're gonna go ahead and use the random noise filters to clean the data up. And in this case, we want to make sure that we have the option set to only analyze the active intensity range, which is what we have isolated in the past. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and define the preview bounds. And we want to make sure that our cell size is small enough so that it only picks up and clusters the data within the railroad tie. And additionally, we want to make sure that we add a minimum cluster area so that it only clusters the railroad tie as well. So if I uncheck that real quick, you'll see that it's picking some of the noise. So we want to constrict the tool to only look at the regions that have a bigger area than 0.4. Alright, so now that we are satisfied with the preview that is showing, we're going to go ahead and classify this and make sure that it's to outside cells so that it's classifying everything that is outside of the cells that we have in here in the preview. And then we're going to go ahead and click process. Alright, so now that it has finished processing, I'm going to open up the visibility and hide our encroachment layer. And then we can see we have very clean railroad ties. So now we're going to go ahead and define our cell template using the flat asset ID tool. We're going to open up this tool. We're going to use the place smart line to define our rail tie. All right, and we're going to create a cell, add the cell, select the center line as our alignment line, and then select the element, use the template as a cell, and then just give it a name. Add it to a category, and then save it. Now if we can see here, we'll have our cell template there, and we can start with the extraction process. For the location mode, we're going to be using the guideline mode, which is going to let us select the center line and just click where we find the railroad tie. Make sure that you're clicking somewhere in the middle of the railroad tie, since that click is going to be used for the sampling of the tool. So if you click somewhere to shift it, it might not pick it up. So sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. So that's the process. Now that's doing individually. You can create a cell that has multiple railroad ties in it and then extract multiple at a time. But that's the basics of it. You can grab the same element that you used to create the first railroad tie and then just copy it, move it somewhere else, select those three, and then we're gonna go ahead and add a new template, select that as my alignment line, and then select these three, get selected, use template as a cell. Let's just add this railroad ties, accept it. We're gonna go ahead and refresh our list and then change that and do the same thing. So we can go ahead and here, select our guideline, locate, and then start extracting. So now you can start from the middle, and then it would add the three at the same time. So you can experiment with this, see how many you can do at a time, and then fasten the process. I would recommend having different templates for different quantities of rail ties, so that if you do have a gap, you can use the single one just to fill it up, and so on and so forth. And as long as you're using your center line as your guideline, whenever you reach these areas of curved sections, it's gonna stay aligned to that path. Something that you could do as well is adding void zones to your template. So when you create your template, let me just go back here real quick. You can use the line style 5 to create a void zone, so that the template knows that there shouldn't be any points in there, and it's gonna help with the fitting of it. That's something that you can also experiment with. So let me just copy this over to this side real quick. And there we go. And then let's create a new cell right here. You get alignment, and then let's select my elements. Select it. Now we have void zones in there, and then let's just call this void. Save it out. Refresh it. Oops, not that. Refresh it, and then let's use the void. So if we go ahead and start extracting, select our guideline, locate, it should help with the fitting of the template itself. So those are tips that you can use for better fitting and hopefully a more streamlined extraction. And that's it for this video. Just contact us back if you have any questions, and we'll be happy to help.